What is up, 2K crew? We got a great show tonight. We've basically hitting all the big time sports. We've got the NFL playoffs. It's championship weekend. We're going to go over the college football champion national title game. We're going to be talking baseball. We're going to be talking college hoops. We got it all tonight coming to you from a freezing Michigan. So let's get locked in, everybody.
Turbo and 2K show.
That's right. It is absolutely freezing here in Michigan, and I think that's going to be the case for most everyone in the United States. So, before we get this kicked off, I just want to I just want to say, if you don't have to go out, don't. But if you do, check with some of your neighbors. Maybe they're elderly. Maybe they can't get out and about as well as you can. So check with them. Make sure they're okay. Make sure their heat is on it. And if they need anything from the store, go ahead and pick that up for them. Because yeah, this is a time where we all need to help each other, and check in on your neighbors, family, all your elderly folks in your life, just to make sure they're okay. Like I said, we've got a hell of a show. We're hitting all the angles. So let's get started with some news, ladies and gentlemen. We had the Baseball Hall of Fame announced who they're putting in the hall this year. This is from Jeff Passan. Center fielders Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones were elected to the National Baseball Hall of Fame today. Since 1981, only two other center fielders have been elected: Ken Griffey Jr. and Kirby Puckett. Rightfully due for one of the most vital positions and two incredible players. And I think it kind of goes without saying that Andrew Jones, especially for people my age, that were kind of raised, especially with our baseball knowledge, raised on either TBS or WGN. So we were fans of the Cubs or the Braves. And if you were a fan of the Braves and on the TBS side, like I was, we saw Andrew Jones grow up right in front of our eyes and become one of the best center fielders in the game for at least a decade. And for him to finally get in, much needed. And as far as Beltran goes, I have a feeling if his connection with the Astros wouldn't have been there, probably would have saw him in there earlier. But at least both those gentlemen are in, and rightfully so. So yeah, that's kicking off our baseball, man. Baseball hot stove is alive, is kicking, and man, oh man, it started out kind of slow. I mean, it just didn't seem like, there was a handful of guys that signed, right soon after the free agency opened. Then we had December and January. And we're like, okay, what is our team going to do? What's out there? Who's still out there? What are the rumors? What's going on? What's this? What's that? And the biggest ticket, I think, out of all of them was Kyle Tucker. And we saw him. This broke shortly after, after the show last week. This is again from Jeff Passan. Breaking: star outfielder Kyle Tucker and the Los Angeles Dodgers are in agreement on a free agent contract, sources tell ESPN. Now, last week I was on here saying that the Dodgers really hadn't spent that much money in free agency this year as compared to years previous, and I call it the Turbo and 2K's jinx. Seems to always happen. But the breakdown of the contract is 4 years, $240 million. So $60 million a year. Yes, there's $30 million deferred signing bonus. There's opt-outs after year 2 and after year 3. I have a feeling that no other team is going to be paying him $60 million a year, so those opt-outs probably are not going to come into play, but who knows? And what we're seeing, a lot of these players that we thought were going to get long-term deals, and we'll get into a couple more here, is that they're opting for these shorter-term deals. Now, I'm not sure if that has to do with the upcoming CBA and the potential lockout, what that has to do with any of this, but we're seeing shorter deals, higher AAV, and I honestly think this is good. I really do. I think it's good for both the players. I think it's good for the teams as well, because we've seen some of these long contracts, like the Albert Pujols deal, like the Miguel Cabrera deal, where we saw these guys limping to the end just to get their paycheck. And for these guys to go 4 years, 5 years, 3 years, it's one of those, especially once we get to Bo Bichette, he's still very young after this contract. So if he outplays this contract, then he's set to get a bigger one. So instead of locking yourself in, why not gamble on yourself a little bit and hopefully get that bigger payday once everything settles down after the CBA and potential lockout, if you will. So yeah, there was a lot of us that thought that Kyle Tucker was going to get into that $400 million 10-year deal, maybe 12 for 5, somewhere in there, and to see him go 4 years, 240, it's a lot of money per year, but not a lot of years. So again, this is something that we're seeing, especially this year, some last year with like the Bregman contract, even though Bregman was looking for a longer term deal and the Red Sox were like, hey, we'll pay you a higher AAV for a shorter amount of time. Come on over here and play with us. And it just ended up being 1 year. That is what it is. That is what it is. And again, this is from Dan Garcia. At this point, I'm surprised John Harbaugh didn't pick the Dodgers also. Good point, Dan. Good point. Well, I mentioned Bo Bichette. Again, this is from Jeff Passan. Infielder Bo Bichette and the New York Mets are in agreement on a 3-year, $216 million contract, sources tell ESPN. After losing the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes, the Mets pivot quickly and get one of the best players left on the market. Will Salmon was first on the deal. Yeah, this was a huge blow for the Yankees. They thought that they had Kyle Tucker kind of hook, line, and sinker. Now, there was some rumblings, I don't know how much this is true, that Juan Soto has it in his contract where there has to be so many Latin players. I doubt it's true because Bo Bichette isn't Latin and neither is Kyle Tucker. So they haven't gotten any more. Well, they did, but not when this came out. But it's just kind of weird to me. I mean, would that be something? Would that be a stipulation in a contract? I don't know. But then again, it is the Mets, so we'll probably never know. So yeah, the Mets thought they were getting Kyle Tucker hook, line, and sinker. They had a longer contract with more money, but like I said, Tucker took the more per year, shorter amount of years, and landed with the Dodgers. And this one came, was it yesterday? Yep. Again from Passan, breaking. Outfielder / first baseman Cody Bellinger and the New York Yankees are in agreement on a free agent contract, sources tell ESPN. And that contract is for 5 years, 162.5. So he signs the longest deal out of all of these guys, and quite frankly, is the oldest one out of the bunch. And I think kind of the least deserving. Granted, Tucker's is for 240. I get that. But 105 years of Cody Bellinger, I don't get it. But it is the Yankees, so who really knows? And this was kind of, I hate to say it, but this was the move that the Yankees fans were waiting for. They're like, we got to get Bellinger back. It's almost like, okay, we get Bellinger back. Garrett Cole is coming off injury, so essentially we get another quote-unquote free agent, if you want to think about it that way. And all of a sudden we're back. We are back. I hate to tell you this, Yankee fans, but the Blue Jays are by far the best team in the AL East. The Red Sox have the best pitching staff in the AL East. The Orioles have gotten better in the offseason. Yankees really haven't. Because if you think you're getting better by adding a Cody Bellinger, which you had last year, means you're just maintaining. And yes, you are getting Garrett Cole back, but off of a major injury, and who knows the timeline when he will be back. So are you really getting that much better? No. I really don't see it. But like I mentioned, the Mets were not done quite yet. Jeff Passan's been busy. Breaking, the New York Mets in agreement on a trade to acquire center fielder Luis Robert Jr. from the White Sox, sources tell ESPN. White Sox will receive 2 young players from the Mets. And this was huge. Because a lot of Mets fans were looking at the Bo Bichette signing and they're like, well, we need outfield help. We don't need more infield help. We got plenty of infielders. We need outfielders. And as a Red Sox fan, I'm like, okay, well, we have an abundance of outfielders. We need infielders. So it just kind of seemed like the, perfect trade partners. But I guess not. Either the Red Sox weren't offering the package to get one of the guys that, whether it was a Brett Beatty type or any other of their, middle infielders or third baseman. But this seems to work out for everyone involved, and it's sad that the White Sox are where they are. I mean, Luis Roberts he's been on the trading block now, it seems like, for 3 years because this team is absolutely terrible. And why waste his talent in a White Sox uniform, knowing damn well good you're not going to re-sign him? You're not going to extend him. You're not going to pay. And I have a feeling if his performance on the field would have been better, if he could have stayed on the field longer, that would have perpetuated a better deal for the White Sox, and they probably would have traded him before now. But it's one of those, and I'm sure Luis Robert is thanking his stars that he is out of Chicago, away from the White Sox and that horrible organization, and with a Mets team that it has a very, very good chance to make the playoffs next year or this year. So he's got to be stoked. He's got to be stoked. And again, the Mets still aren't done. Passing comes out again. The New York Mets have acquired all-star right-hander Freddie Peralta in a trade with the Milwaukee Brewers. Sources tell ESPN deal is done. Top prospects Jet Williams and Brandon Sprott are headed to Milwaukee. One more big league pitcher will head to the Mets. And that was kind of the last piece, 2K crew, that if you're a Mets fan, you're like, okay, we got the high price. We got one of the top free agents. We still need outfield help. Luis Robert Jr. checks that box. We still really need an arm. Freddie Peralta checks that box. So were the Mets they weren't super active at the beginning of free agency, but man, oh man, within like the last week, it's been bing, bang, boom. Here we go. And I think all that needed to spurn this was the Kyle Tucker signing. If the Kyle Tucker signing would have happened before Christmas, we might have seen these trades and these deals go down prior to Christmas. So it is what it is. And if you're a Mets fan, you have to be stoked. You have to be stoked. And so with that being said, where does that leave the Tigers and the Tarek Skubal situation? Because the two big fish that were out there, the two of the biggest teams that could offer the biggest packages were the Dodgers and the Mets. And now we're seeing both the Dodgers and Mets kind of close up shop. Like we're done. We're done. So it's one of those like, okay, Tigers, what do we do? What do we do? It seems like we can't get the package that we want for Skubal on January 22nd. Is any of this going to change at the trade deadline? Are you going to keep him that long? Well, I think at this point you have to. And it has come out that that his agent said that yes, they will revisit the Tigers with negotiations, but in good faith. And up until this point, they haven't had anything close to what Skubal's been offering, or that he counter offered with. They're $20 million apart. So if you're looking to extend this guy, you gotta come correct. You gotta come ready with your guns loaded, because this is by far the best prospect you've had since Justin Verlander, and quite possibly could end up being better than Justin Verlander. Still yet to be known, but he's the two-time defending Cy Young Award winner, for Christ's sake. And you offer him $19 million in arbitration, and he wants 32. That's pretty far apart. Pretty far apart. And with Scott Boras as an agent, I really don't think, yeah, we'll just meet in the middle and we'll call it good. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I really don't. I don't think that's going to happen. So Tigers fans, this has got to make you nervous because if he walks, you get nobody. If he walks, you get nobody. I will say though that he would look really good in Boston. Skubal and Crochet atop that lineup with Ranger Suarez, the lefties just coming at you in 1, 2, 3. Would love that. Love that. But on that note, if it wasn't last week, it was the week before. We talked about when this news dropped of how far apart the Tigers and Skubal's representation were. We I think it was last week. We kind of harped on the Dodgers about how much they've spent. Everyone's pissed, and I kind of made the argument. It's like this happened in the '90s with the Yankees, albeit the vast majority of that nucleus of the Yankees were homegrown. Jeter, Posada, Bernie Williams, Mariano Rivera, Andy Pettitte, that crew that brought that, a ton of World Series, to the Bronx. Those guys were homegrown, but it seemed like when it came to CeCe, when it came to Mark Teixeira, when it came to this guy, when it came to Gary Sheffield, they were the ones getting the high dollar free agents year in and year out. The Yankees haven't done that in quite some time. Now it's the Dodgers' turn. And you could go into how when the Dodgers were broke, MLB was like, we'll give you special consideration until you get back on your feet, and those considerations haven't been taken away. I get that part. So the Dodgers have more money to play with, even though they are seemingly the richest ownership group and team in Major League Baseball. So maybe MLB needs to be like, okay, all these special considerations need to be taken away. And there's a lot of people saying that the Kyle Tucker signing is going to be, or was the signal that the lockout is imminent. The lockout is looming, and we'll see. We'll honestly see. It would be a shame because baseball has never been healthier. But I pose the question, kind of leaning on Tigers fans, Pirates fans, and even Red Sox fans, where we've been clamoring and screaming at the top of our lungs for our ownership group to spend money. We have these very talented players. Let's build around them. Tigers have Skubal. The Red Sox have Roman Anthony, Garrett Crochet, Marcelo Meyer. This young core that they need to build around if they want to compete with the Dodgers and with the Blue Jays and all these other teams. And yet it seems like it's one of those they're trying to pinch pennies together to make a dime when we all know that they're billionaires. And yes, we talked about how I would run a sports franchise. It's one of those you got to spend money to make money. The more money you spend, theoretically, the better your team will be. And the better your team will be, the more people want to come see it, the more stuff you sell, yada, yada, yada. We've been over that. Well, this is from Bob Nightingale. With all of the vitriol directed towards the Dodgers, remember, the Red Sox chose not to sign Mookie Betts and traded him to L.A. Atlanta walked away from Freddie Freeman. The Angels declined to match Shohei Ohtani's offer. The Astros and Cubs didn't want to keep Kyle Tucker. Bob, you nailed it right on the head. Right on the head. And as a Red Sox fan, that is by far the worst trade in, I'm going to say, baseball history. The Dodgers have Mookie Betts, who has won 3 World Series with them. And we have Connor Wong, which is the only remnant of the Mookie Betts trade. Still left it in the organization. The key piece of that, Alex Verdugo, we got rid of him years ago, and he's not even in Major League Baseball right now. I shouldn't say in Major League Baseball. I honestly don't believe he's on anyone's roster. So, extremely lopsided. Extremely lopsided. So I'm not saying that it's just the Dodgers' fault. It's every owner in baseball's fault. They're contributing to this by not contributing to it. So thank you, Bob Nightingale, for bringing my point home. So enough about baseball. Enough about baseball. Which we're very close to pitchers and catchers reporting. Let's talk college hoops. Let's talk college hoops. And, we've, looking back on the college football season, especially with the transfer portal opening up, all the NIL, everything that's going around there, we kind of see all of the wild, wild west type shit that's going on with that. Well, college basketball is even worse. I didn't think that could be possible because there's not nearly as many players. And there's only certain schools that have good, like really good basketball programs. And most of which, if their basketball program is really, really good, their football program is not, aka Duke, North Carolina, those type of teams. But there are a handful that have both good football and basketball programs. So where's when it comes to the NIL money, yes, the football team is going to be the most expensive team just because there's more people on it. But the NIL really isn't the problem. It isn't the problem at all. And I was listening to, what was it? I can't even remember which podcast it was, but they were talking about a player from the D League, the NBA D League, coming to play in college basketball. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. He still had college eligibility. So it's not the case of him not having years left to play, but just the fact that he signed a professional contract and all of a sudden can come back. Well, the shit's starting to really hit the fan, so let's take a look at it. This is from College Basketball Content. And the player in question, his name is Charles Badako. Badako, that's what we're going to call him. I'm sure I'm butchering it. But the Charles Badako summary. Played at Alabama for 2 years, entered the 2023 NBA draft, went undrafted, played in the G League for 3 years, now is resuming his remaining 2 years of collegiate eligibility at Alabama. Ridiculous now that he's allowed to return to college basketball. And now that I'm thinking about it, it wasn't this gentleman in question. It was someone that played overseas, that the podcast I was listening to. He had played as a professional overseas, and now you add that to this, and I've got the Wisconsin Penn State game up here, and it looks like those guys they're 18 games in, so it's about over halfway through the season, and old buddy for Alabama comes back and wants to continue his college journey. That doesn't seem right. But then again, if you think about it, years previous, college sports were amateur sports. No one was getting paid, even though football-wise they all were, even basketball to a certain extent. But now it's out there in the open. And they're not necessarily signing contracts for professional organizations, but they are getting paid as if they are a professional. So this happening doesn't shock me. It's just like, wow, someone actually did this. And let's take a look at another thing here. This is from Dick Weiss. If Charles Badako, who signed three NBA contracts, is allowed to play Saturday against Tennessee, the NCAA should have to close up shop because this will open a Pandora's box that will never be closed. RIP college basketball. And he's kind of right. He's kind of right. So let's say hypothetically here. Hypothetically, let's put on our sports tin hats, okay? Take a player like LeBron. LeBron never played in college. He still has 4 years of eligibility. If he retired from the Lakers tomorrow, and he's like, you know what, I would really like to go play for Duke. You know, Coach K isn't there anymore, but it was still my dream to play for Duke. So you've got 40-plus-year-old LeBron James running around with Duke. It'd be the same thing. Am I wrong? Or any other player, Carmelo Anthony, any of these other guys that still have remaining eligibility could come back and do this. So Dick's not wrong. Like, where would this stop? Oh, they have to be, they can only be 2 years removed from when they left the team. No, this is a crock of shit. And every college basketball fan should be like, yes, this is a travesty. This is from Emily Austin. Coach John Calipari is absolutely spot on here. Why would a coach recruit and develop an American high school kid for 4 years when the system now rewards grabbing ready-made pros from overseas, like I talked about, the G League or the NBA pipeline? If we don't fix this, we're killing the entire purpose of college sports. And Coach Cal and I haven't seen eye to eye on a lot of things, but he has a point. He has a point. But on, you know, let's talk about his point. I'll kind of give you the counterpoint here. His point is right. College basketball is supposed to be like a feeder league for the NBA. We get these players ready, we fine-tune their fundamentals, and we get them ready for the league. And we get them as talented as we can so that they get as drafted as high as possible. Yep, I buy all that. But when you're talking about getting these guys ready, come on, coach. How many of your guys have how many of your guys have left after 1 year? How much have you actually prepared them? So don't give me this holier than thou shit, because I'm not buying it totally. I agree with some of your argument, because you're right. If why are you spending time recruiting it on high schools when you can just go recruit overseas to guys that have never played college before and have them come over here as adults? I get that part, but maybe you're not the one to kind of come correct with this. So it has me wondering, is March Madness is right around the corner. I mean, we've got, what, 6 weeks before March Madness starts? 5 weeks? Like, what kind of impact can this have? Now, I didn't have time to pull the tweets, but there was a lot of people saying, okay, if Alabama wants to do this, and if the NCAA has any hair on their ass, what they're going to do is, when it comes to selection time, count every game that old buddy played as a forfeit, because it's not in the best interest of the NCAA. And yes, the NCAA has taken this to court, which is why this gentleman is able to play, and it's actually kind of not settled yet, which is why he's starting to play now, which could change, But if it remains this way all season, and with the player that came out of the G League, if they do the same thing with him, I think they're kind of sending a message saying that, no, this is, even though it's not against the rules per se, it's not on paper that you can't do this, it's kind of against everything that NCAA basketball is about. And you could say, you know, there's NCAA basketball is very different, because I honestly think the one and done is crap. Either make it 3 years or you go right from high school. I really don't care how prepared these players are. I don't care how unresponsible they are with money. That's not my problem. That's theirs. It's not my problem to protect them from themselves. Because regardless if they go from high school or after 1 year, how much more mature is someone? Not much. Not much at all. And even with all of this, you know, all these finance classes, not classes, but finance people they bring in to teach these kids how not to do things, they're going to do it anyway. So when everyone's talking about the college football being broken, college basketball says, "Hold my beer, watch this." And I think ultimately college basketball has been quote unquote broken longer than college football. And if you go back, I honestly I can't remember who proposed the either leave after college or you're signing up for 3 years. But with the transfer portal, I mean, is it 3 years with one program? Is it 3 years total? That I have no idea. I have no idea because you really don't hear about the transfer. Kids, players in college basketball in the transfer portal as much as we do is with the football team. So I think honestly because just the volume of players, that's what gets the transfer portal in the spotlight per se. But yeah, it's like, all right, this is dumb. This is dumb. So I really don't know how to feel about this. I mean, granted, it is only one instance, but that's one instance can lead to a floodgate of other problems, a floodgate of other opportunities if you don't think it's a problem. But if you don't think this is a problem, this is a grown ass man playing with college kids. To me, that's a problem. And I know I used a very extreme example with LeBron, but that's kind of what they're saying. Now, would LeBron actually do that? I highly doubt it. I doubt it. But some of these guys that left their junior year and things really aren't panning out as much as they thought in the NBA, what's to say that they don't leave the NBA and go back to school for a year? And then do they get redrafted? How does this all work? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just glad I don't have to be the one that comes up with all the answers because I don't have any. But speaking of March Madness, this is from College Basketball Report. 96% of national champions since 2001 have had a top 20 KenPom offensive pre-tournament. 92% of the national champions since 2001 have had a top 31 KenPom defensive pre-tournament. Teams that are currently fit this criteria: Gonzaga, Arizona, Michigan, Duke, Indiana, Vanderbilt, Florida, Iowa State, Purdue, Texas Tech, BYU, Virginia, and Houston. And Houston. I know that was a very long-winded news segment, but there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff going on, and kind of thankfully so, because there's only one college football game to break down and two NFL games to kind of break down. So fills the time well. Fills the time well. Well, speaking of college football, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I, for one, I was shocked. I was shocked. Shocked in a good way because the game ended up being a lot better and a lot more watchable than what I thought was going to happen. I thought Indiana was just going to roll over Miami. Of course, then again, I thought Ohio State was going to. I honestly thought the Ole Miss game would be close, and it was. But this just seemed like, in last week we broke it down, and we talked about Miami's offensive and defensive line, and both those lines gave Indiana hell all game. Indiana only had one pressure and one sack on Carson Beck. That second half, he was sitting in the pocket clean the whole time. Can't say that about Mendoza. Mendoza was getting his clock cleaned a lot. A lot. And for it to be as low, now I believe it did hit the over. But if you were one of the under bettors, man, you were licking your chops going into halftime. 10-3, let's go. Miami misses a field goal, kind of thinking that would, kind of lead into more of a demise for Miami. And yes, anytime you don't put up points when you're supposed to, that's a big deal. That's a big deal, especially in a championship game. you want to get as many points as you can and try to get points on every drive if possible. Of course, with a defense like Indiana's, a defense like Miami's, you're not expecting that. So when you get down there, in field goal range with two pretty good kickers, and to have old buddy from Miami doink that one, that was tough. That was tough. And I honestly thought the turning point in that game was the block punt recovered for a touchdown. I'm like, okay, this is it. This is where Miami falls apart. Carson Beck's going to start pressing. That's when the turnovers are going to start. And Indiana's going to take this game over like I thought they were going to from the beginning. And that didn't happen either. This Miami team, this was to use the analogy that every single person in sports media has been using is two boxers standing toe-to-toe throwing haymakers. That's exactly what it was. It's exactly what it was. And it was awesome. It was awesome. Yes, I took the Hoosiers -8.5. And I also did an alternate spread of Hoosiers -16.5. Because I thought they were going to win by 17. Not even close. Not even close. It was close to the first one. But regardless, it was a great game. It was a great game, and I'm happy for the Hoosiers, and I'm happy for Miami, a team that myself included didn't even really think they deserved to be in this thing to begin with, and to run it, be driving for the win in the national title game was huge, absolutely huge. Let's look into the Hoosiers here for a second. This is from Kendall Baker. This might be the best Indiana stat I've seen. The Hoosiers had as many wins over AP top 10 teams this season, 6-0, as they had their entire history as a program coming into the season. 116-1. That is crazy. That is crazy. Kendall, thank you for that stat there, my man. And here's another one. This is from Lev Akabas. Indiana football is one of the most unlikely champions in recent U.S. team sports history. U.S. Sports Championship teams with the worst preseason odds since 1999. The Hoosiers were 100-1. So if you took Indiana to win at the beginning of the season, you turned $1 into 100. So kudos to you. The only other team that was better than or had worse odds than that was the 1999 St. Louis Rams, 150-1. 150-1. So yeah, this is unprecedented. I don't think we've ever seen a team go from the absolute worst to the absolute best in the matter of 2 seasons. And it's great. I'm honestly at a loss. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. This is from Underdog. Indiana season record since 2021. 2-10, 4-8, 3-9. Last year 11-2. This year 16-0. The greatest sports turnaround ever. So they had 9 wins the previous 3 years combined. And in 2 seasons, they have 27. 3 times as many wins as they did the last 3 years. It's insane. And to kind of further that point, this is from College Football Report. In 2022, JMU was 8-3. 23, JMU was 11-1. 24, Indiana was 11-2. And in 25, Indiana is 16-0. This dude is literally playing EA College Football Dynasty rebuild in real life. And let's be real. Would James Madison have come up on anyone's radar if it wasn't for Coach Cignetti? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And I'm wondering how long it's going to take before we start seeing this Coach Sig tree. We've got the Belichick tree. We got the Saban tree. I know he has to be there a little longer for these, assistant coaches and coordinators to start building their resumes so that other teams can try and poach them. I get that. But it's going to happen to K. Crew. It has to. With as good of a job as he's done at both of these schools, both of them extremely irrelevant until he got there, and turning them around as quickly as he did, yeah, there's going to be a Cignetti tree. There is bound to be a Kurt Cignetti tree, same as Nick Saban, same as Bill Belichick, same as McVay, Shanahan, all these great coaches. We're gonna start seeing it and talking about the Sig tree and where it goes and kind of who's on it. And what's really going to be fun is to see kind of like the Nick Saban tree and all of his coordinators when they got to be head coaches, their record against him, which isn't really good aside from Kirby Smart. So who's going to be that coordinator that leaves and has success against Cignetti? That's going to be the intriguing part. And Cignetti's come out and said, "Hey, I am not an NFL guy. I'm a college guy. I'm here." And I absolutely love that response. I love that response. Instead of, having his, the entire campus on pins and needles after every season, and there's like this year 10 coaching vacancies in the NFL. And if he continues to make deep runs into the in the bracket, it's going to be harder and harder and harder for these NFL teams to hire him because they just don't have the time. And unless you're, well, even Lane Kiffin left. So, but yeah, it's going to be cool to see. It's going to be cool to see. Let's get into the picks here because there's only two. And I looked at trying to do college basketball picks, but normally the last 2 or 3 weeks, the college basketball slate hasn't been that great. So I looked at, all right, well, I'll pick, like Saturday. Well, they're not giving the odds out in time for me to put them up here, at least yet. If that changes, I'll start to give some college basketball picks, which this 45 and 40, which we took an absolute bath last week. I was 1-4. That was terrible. That might go down really quick. Really, really quick. Oh, we shall see. So this week I'm taking the Rams plus 2.5 and the Pats minus 4.5. The Patriots line I'm very confused at, considering Jared Stidham is the quarterback of the Broncos. Yeah, he's looked great in preseason games. He's looked great in the couple games that he's actually played in the NFL. Sean Payton has full confidence in him. I don't get it. And then going against his Patriots defense, which made CJ Stroud look ridiculous. I don't get it. I will gladly give 4.5 points. In the Rams, it's hard to pick against Seattle right now, but I've been on the Rams pretty much all season. So I think ultimately I've got to ride with them. I gotta. So there's really no rhyme or reason why I'm picking. There's not like one stat that I can just lay down. Be like, yep, this is why the Rams are going to win, except for Matt Stafford. I believe in Matt Stafford a lot more than I do than anyone on the Seahawks, even though that defense is pretty stout. So let's peruse on into the NFL here. Let's get some NFL news going before we, I kind of broke down the games, but let's get into some NFL news here. Big news out of Buffalo. Adam Scheffler tweeted, Bills fired head coach Sean McDermott per source. And this caused a lot of controversy. Not only with the firing, but I believe it was yesterday, the press conference where they were, kind of trashing the coach, even though he's not there. And they didn't talk to Josh Allen before firing him. And he's won a bunch of games there, but just lost the big ones, at least in the postseason. So there are a lot of people going, well, why? I don't know. I mean, I think it was right there up with the Ravens, right there up with the Steelers, where even though the Bills more recently have had more success than either of those teams, I think it was just a matter of things have gotten stale. And now you've got arguably the best quarterback in the league without a head coach. Where do you go if you're Buffalo? Who's better than Sean McDermott? It's going to be interesting to follow that head coaching search, just because, like I said, you are. This is a once in a generation situation for a head coach. It would be if for whatever reason New England fired Bill Belichick in the middle of Tom Brady's run. It's really not heard of. It's not heard of at all. I mean, yeah, you can say with Lamar Jackson, but and both of them have had ultimately very similar postseason success. But I think Josh Allen's position as a quarterback right now, he ultimately moving forward, I think most everyone would take Josh Allen before they'd take Lamar. So similar, yes. The same, no. But this is something that's kind of, at least in recent memory, kind of unprecedented. So I really can't wait to see who they hire and how well Josh Allen will get along with them. Because you would think that has to be a conversation that they would be having. Speaking of the Ravens, Adam Schefter, excuse me. Sources: the Baltimore Ravens are hiring Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter as their head coach and signing him to a 5-year contract. Minter visited the Ravens on Wednesday and now reunites with the team he coached from 2017 to 2020. Of course, taking a little hiatus, going over to Michigan to coach or to help Jim Harbaugh with his defense. Excuse me. This was something rather odd, which I probably should have put it above, but here it is. Again, from Shefty, 49ers are investigating the viral conspiracy theory that the electrical substation near their training facility and Levi Stadium is contributing to their injuries. And this is something that I would really like to 2Ks and I have a buddy of ours who's one of the strength coaches over at the 49ers. And now that the season's kind of winding down, I might have to get him on the show to kind of get his 2 cents on this amongst, everything else. Because, man, it seems like the entire time Kyle Shanahan has been there, every year they're just riddled with injuries. Is it because of this substation and power plant? I don't know. But I would be very curious to see if it is, and if it does, what do the 49ers do? They build a new stadium? Do they move? Can you move a substation like this? Can you move it somewhere else? I think it'd be cheaper to move that than move an entire stadium. I don't know. That's something that, I mean, there again, tinfoil hat wearers would probably be like, what, they didn't think of this? Oh my gosh. 49ers are so dumb. We could have told them that. But does it have any real footing? I think is what all 49ers fans and probably 49ers ownership really want to know, because they're paying their players a lot of money and they expect them to be on the field. So if this is indeed causing or contributing to injuries, I think they really want to know about it. And Shefty and Jeff Passan have been busy. Robert Saleh has now signed his 5-year contract with the Titans. Again, going back to some 49ers. Excuse me. If I'm Bob Saleh, I left the Niners and went and coached the Jets. And the Jets are a dumpster fire still to this day. Aaron Glenn's rumored that he wants to step away from football in its entirety. Is it because of the Jets? I don't know. I'm sure it's a contributing factor, but That didn't work out for Bob Saleh. Goes back to the Niners. A lot of his defense is hurt, but yet the team, I mean, this is Kyle Shanahan's best coaching job of his entire career. And I think ultimately Bob Saleh wants to be a head coach, but man, you go from the Jets back to the Niners to the Titans. And I get it. Successful teams don't fire coaches unless you're the Bills, Ravens, Pittsburgh. I think I'd want the Pittsburgh job more than the Titans. But I mean, I to be honest with you, I would just hang out in San Francisco. That's just my opinion. Ian Rappaport from Twitter. The Falcons are set to hire Browns coach Kevin Stefanski as their new head coach per the insiders. One of the top candidates on the board, Stefanski would likely keep DC Jeff Albright as well, a coveted pairing in Atlanta. This is huge. That Falcons team they've got some talent. And Stefanski's a damn good coach. He's won the coach of the year twice in Cleveland. And if you're Stefanski, you got to be stoked because all your home games are in a dome. I mean, that's going from Cleveland where it's -12, especially right now. I get to play in a dome at least half the year. Sign me up. And with a better roster than I just left, yes, give me all of that. So kudos to him, and kudos to the Falcons on their signing. That was awesome. Shefty reports Florida head coach, former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniels is expected to become the Chargers offensive coordinator, barring a change of heart, per Jeff Darlington and me. McDaniels has informed the other teams that they're out. The Chargers clearly want him, and the two sides are having dinner tonight, which was yesterday. But the expectation across the league is that McDaniel will be staying in LA. Big get for Harbaugh and the Chargers. Chargers have weapons, but it seems like the cohesiveness on offense really hasn't been there. And yet, I get it with the offensive line injuries this year. You have 2 all-pro tackles go out. That's going to ding your offensive line right out the gate. And Herbert has been banged up every single year, it seems like, that he's been in the league. So they finally get, what they think is a stabilized offensive line, and both their tackles go out within like the first handful of weeks. Yeah. And then the running back that they drafted goes out for the vast majority of the season. So yeah, he didn't have a whole lot of time to throw the ball, and yet they made it to the playoffs and played well. Especially coming down the pike, they played really well. So I think this is a huge get. Not only it's obviously a huge get for the Chargers, but I think the shock that came to everyone was the Lions let him out of Detroit without a contract, without keeping him there. And I think all of us, even I'm not a huge Lions fan, but I am a fan. It's like, man, Mike McDaniel is the offensive coordinator with this offense, an offense that was tops in the league last year. Man, this is going to be awesome. And now it's like, oh, shit. Nope. So getting to the Lions, this is from the Detroit Times. New Lions offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, is extremely close to former Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. Quote from Field Yates. Although Drew Petzing and Dan Campbell have not coached together previously, there is a connection of sorts. Petzing is extremely close to Ben Johnson. They coached together at Boston College, and Petzing served as one of Johnson's groomsmen. So do we have a situation here that's kind of like the Sean McVay tree that we talked about? It seemed like there was a huge push to sign any coordinator, coach, assistant, someone who did his laundry. He sold Sean McVay a cup of coffee 2 weeks ago. Anyone who's touched him within the last 3 months, we want them to coach our football team. We want them on our staff. Seems like Ben Johnson did a hell of a job first year in Chicago. Was very close to going to the NFC Championship game. Is he like the next hot commodity where everyone's trying to get a piece of what Ben Johnson has, who has he worked with? Who has he worked with? Seems that way. Seems that way. But anyone in Detroit is like, who the hell is this guy? Who is this? We want a Mike McDaniel. We get this guy? Who the fuck is this guy? This is from Peter Schrager. Drew Petzing, a widely respected young offensive coach, legit head coach buzz when he was a healthy starting quarterback. Surprised the hire is being panned. Alas, I guess we'll see. Yep, Pete, you're right. You're right. I mean, in Lions fans, it can't get any worse than what we just saw. To be honest with you, it wasn't the offense that was the problem in Detroit yet again. It was the injuries and the defense. And in particular this year, the injuries hit the offense a lot more than it did last year. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Lions move forward with this. I think they're going to be fine. And we saw Dan Skipper has retired, and they're so we'll have to wait and see on some of the other roster moves and such that the Lions make moving forward. But one thing that is kind of caused a buzz around a lot of circles. The BR Gridiron Chiefs are hiring Eric Bieniemy as their new head coach or offensive coordinator, per Schultz report. Bieniemy was previously with KC from 2013 to 2022. That in and of itself didn't cause the big hubbub, the big what's going on moment. It was on the New Heights podcast where the Kelsey brothers were talking about this. And Travis was, in his response, one of the things he said was, I can't wait to see him back in the building. Which there was a lot of us at the end of the season for the Chiefs were like, well, have we seen the last of Travis Kelsey? And there's a lot of people that were like, geez, oh, Pete, I hope so. He's a shell of himself. He can't catch anymore. He's slow. I'm just overseeing him and Taylor, whatever your opinion might be. And there's some other folks that are like, the competitor in him going out on the worst season they've had in a decade, I don't see this being the last for him. So did Travis allude that he's coming back in his statement saying, I can't wait to see EB back in the building? Maybe it's old hat. Maybe it's just that was his first thought. And maybe I think ultimately he hasn't made his decision yet, which is up to him. It's up to him. He deserves. I mean, what's funny is that there's a lot of people that have varying opinions on everything, and they're like, he's the greatest Kansas City tight end ever. Those people have forgotten about Tony Gonzalez. But needless to say, Eric Bieniemy is back in Kansas City, kind of where he got his really good start. When he was in his Kansas City run, there was a lot of people him hawing around about how he should get head coaching jobs and everything else. Well, this is a chance to go back, and maybe it's one last swan song with everyone over there at KC. So I do have some stuff to go over with the NFC Championship weekend. I mean, hell, it was the thumbnail of the show here tonight. Let's talk about the Patriots. This is from BetMGM. It's starting to look a lot like 2001 again. Miami wins the Natty. Weak Heisman winner. Rams quarterback MVP. Matt Stafford. Kurt Warner. Super Bowl winner Pats. I'm not sure how accurate this is, but first two boxes are checked. Third one has a very, very solid chance. And at least the Pats have a very solid chance to advance to the Super Bowl. But we shall see. We shall see. Let's stick with Mr. Stafford here. This is from Dante Kopolowitz Fleming. Dante, I'm sorry I totally butchered your last name. Most playoff wins after 33rd birthday. 21, Tom Brady. 8, Jim Plunkett. 7, Matthew Stafford, Peyton Manning, John Elway, Roger Staubach. Stafford didn't win his first playoff game until he was 33 years old. It says a lot. It says a lot. Even if he doesn't win another one, that's some pretty good company to be there. He'll never catch Brady, let's be honest. But that's some pretty elite company. Pretty elite company. Let's see here. Let's talk about the Broncos. This was actually kind of, I saw this and I'm like, makes sense. And this is from Kubiami, a piece of cap sheet agami, kind of going from the score agami play on that. The Broncos are currently paying Russell Wilson more money than their entire offensive skill unit for their 2025 AFC Championship game, including Bo Nix. $32 million they're paying Russell Wilson. $31.7 million is being paid to Stidham, Nix, Harvey, Sutton, Franklin, Bryant, and Ingram. Most people forget that Russell Wilson is still getting paid by the Denver Broncos and has been for quite a while, at least last year and this year. And that was part of the thing. That's kind of why they didn't get rid of him sooner than they did, because they didn't want the dead cap hit. And Sean Payton said, "Don't worry, we'll take that dead cap hit, and we're still going to win. We're still going to win." They replaced him with Bo Nix, a very, very low draft, or not as high of a draft pick as, well, actually it was first round, so never mind. But drastically different pay than what they were paying Russell Wilson. Took a hit there. And if Bo Nix is their guy, Russell Wilson will be off the books plenty before then. So that'll open up cap space for Bo Nix if they choose to go that route. But just kind of a cool little thing here. Another thing about it, continuing on the Broncos here, this is from Tom Pelissero. Jarrett Stidham played one snap this season, a kneel down in October. He hasn't thrown a regular season pass since 2023, when he started 2 games after Denver benched Russell Wilson. In 8 days, which is now 4, Stidham will start the AFC Championship game. And getting back to what I said, with my pick, it's like, damn, 4.5 points. I know Denver's defense is good, but are they that good? Are they that good? I don't know. No, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. We talked about Matt Stafford. Let's talk about Sam Darnold. This is from Chase Snyder. Can't believe this just hit me. We aren't talking enough about the fact that Sam Darnold has a very real chance to be the first quarterback in the 2018 draft class to win a Super Bowl. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, which everyone forgot about, and Lamar Jackson. That is, considering Josh's career path and what, actually Baker Mayfield as well. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, they've been staples in Baltimore and Buffalo. But the top two quarterbacks here have bounced around. A lot of people had, kind of written them off as dead, and they've made very, very good careers since then. So kudos to them, and we shall see if Sam Darnold is the first quarterback out of that class to get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. And just to kind of piggyback off that. Jared Stidham. This is from BetMGM. Either Drake May or Jared Stidham will have a Super Bowl appearance before Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, the Lions franchise, and Myles Garrett. So, kind of crazy to think that Drake May in his second year and Jared Stidham, who I think a lot of us just forgot about. One of them is going to play in the Super Bowl. And they're going to be playing in the Super Bowl before all of those people and the Lions. Kind of crazy to think. Well, 2K crew, I'll get you out of here on that. Everyone have a great week. And as I said, with the weather being crazy nuts as it is, check on your family, check on your friends, check on your neighbors and your elderly loved ones. Make sure they're okay. Make sure their heat is working. Ask if they need any help. If you yourself are venturing out, see if they need any little items that you could help them with. It could mean the world to them. So everyone have a great week. Stay safe, be warm, and as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.